gloom and doom, or if you prefer, doom and gloom. It just goes on and on and on. And while there might be a short break, we have a weather system that we will be dealing with for Sunday. Well, actually, starting later Saturday night and might bring some snow to elevated areas of the Northeast. We'll talk about that and so much more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast, and if you purchase anything on the Tempest website, be it the weather station or any of the other wonderful gadgets and gizmos in smart weather fashion, use the coupon code winter2324. And if you do, you will get.
You'll get 10% off. 10 big percent off.
Joe, for my birthday, which is
Which is
Saturday.
Saturday.
Yes,
Yes.
which is Saturday. My birthday wish is that I could go an entire day without watching a Jardians commercial. And guess what? They have a new Jardians commercial, same song, but now they're dancing in an office, in a big office.
Uh-huh.
Oh God, it's like, can we stop?
The same rotund woman who's
Oh, be
singing.
nice, be nice, be nice. No, they have a
I
whole
didn't
different.
I'm being politically correct here. I'm not using that three-letter word that
I dare you to use that. I
no,
dare to use that in public and see what happens to you.
these drugs, my physician, my personal physician who I've been going to for about 20 years, he put me on Ozempic last August.
Hmm.
August, I was weighing about 184 pounds. I weighed myself this morning, Joe. I'm now down to 160
Oh
with Ozempic.
wow.
This is incredible.
Well,
In fact,
great, but watch your muscle mass.
my BMI,
No, no, your muscle mass, because apparently one of the side effects of those drugs is um, that of the weight loss drugs is that it makes you lose your muscle mass. I know,
well,
and I know two people who wound up having disc issues that they said that the doctor said was related to the weight loss. So just do some weight work, do some
my
exercise.
my A1C went from 8.7 to 6.3, believe it or not. So,
Wow. Well, that's great. That's
but
very
I
good.
weigh less. I now weigh less than my son and my daughter. That is a little scary to me.
I thought you were going to say you weigh less than your son and daughter combined.
Combined.
All right. How about we say hello
It's
to
not,
everybody?
Tom Contino, it's not a weight loss situation. It is for diabetes. I am a type 2 diabetic. I've used all kinds of stuff for diabetes over the last 10 or 15 years. Metformin, Simvastatin, nothing seemed to really lower my numbers. And finally, my doctor said this past summer, well, I'm going to put you on Ozempic. It's a miracle drug. And sure enough, no sooner did I start using it, but I'd lowered my A1C significantly. And so I'm not taking it to lose weight. I'm taking it to control my diabetes. But Tom Contino needs to know everything about everybody. So
Well, apparently,
apparently,
we could sit here and talk about my Crohn's disease.
is
Oh,
it,
that ought to get the audience right interested.
isn't it
Um,
fun getting old, Joe?
yeah, I
You know,
know. I've always said, you finally get old. You finally get old enough that you get your head together, and what happens? Your ass falls apart.
right.
But that's just the way it is. Welcome
Or as
tonight
they
to
say in
everybody.
as they say in Germany, we get too old soon and too late schmat.
Yeah, it's true. Big hellos to everybody on the chat board. For those of you who are not on the chat board but watching in the background, big hugs and big hellos to you on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. We at the moment are not going to be on tomorrow or Saturday. At least that's the plan, unless something radically changes. I'm not really and it boils down to the. Oh, by the way, if you like the show, hit the like button. And because Joe and I love it when we go over uh 100 likes. So I'm not particularly impressed by this system for Sunday or Sunday night or whatever, uh, among other things. First off, the timing issue with that high coming down now is all wrong because the low is actually coming in faster. I mean, it could be raining. Uh, it could be raining across eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England after midnight Saturday night. So it's coming in faster, and then the cold air is coming in on the backside, but just how much is going to be left at that point, I don't know. And the other thing is that with the temperatures so marginal, if you're going to talk about accumulations, I think you really have to emphasize the fact that it's going to be in elevated areas. And WPC in their long range, when we look at the map later, if you look at where they drew the highest probabilities, it's in areas of high elevation.
Right, right. And it does not look like it doesn't look like it to you, and it didn't look like it to me. I mentioned that there's the possibility that we may see some a change over to wet snow or a wintry mix, sometime Sunday night into early Monday, and I think basically it's for areas north of 287. I've heard stories that some of the local TV weathercasters actually put up a snow map, believe it or not, Joe, for
Yeah,
this.
when it comes to drawing maps, when it comes to drawing snow maps in a situation like this, it's really tough because you really gotta know where the topography is with regards to the mountains and the valleys and so on. And I didn't want to necessarily play that game 3 days in advance. So
Right.
maybe I'll do one tomorrow for my on my subscription website. Uh, but I'm not really anxious to do it, and frankly, I just am kind of underwhelmed by it all.
And quite frankly, also, it is the pressure. It is the pressure that is invoked by either the news directors or the executive producers at these TV stations. They say, well, Channel 2 has a map up, or, well, Channel 7 is going to put a map up tonight. What are you going to do? Aren't you going to put something up? Because we want, our viewers to stay on top of the end. I'm sure that Channel 2 and Channel 7 and Channel 5 and Channel 11, all these channels are trying to outdo each other. And in the process, by putting up a map, 3 days in advance when there's really not that much data to work on and a lot of uncertainties, the only thing you're doing is you're hurting your viewers, and the viewers are thinking now, probably some of them, that, oh my God, did you hear we got a big snowstorm coming on Sunday into early Monday or whatever. And it's uh, while it might happen, if not all the models are on the same page, and if you're not 100% certain about this, why do it now?
Yeah,
Wait until tomorrow,
yeah.
or even
Well,
Saturday.
and then of course you've got the social media, the problem with people putting snow maps up of various models that show set many inches in areas just inland, and even some models showing a few inches along the coast. I mean, I'm sorry, you're going to have to prove it to me. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but you're going to have to, the way this thing has evolved, you're going to have to prove it to me. And I have to tell you quite honestly, there's a follow-up system that comes in right behind this one. There's a diver that comes down for I think Wednesday. I think that has me a little more intrigued than the one for later Sunday. It's for Sunday into Sunday night.
A clipper?
Yeah, there's a little clipper with an upper low, a cutoff that's digging southeastward. It's a small system. I don't know what it has to work on. It may not have very much to work on, and that's another issue. But let's get the maps going, and we can get to that, and see if we can figure something out. But in the meantime, uh, there's your watches and warnings tonight. Once again, the map looks like something you'd see in late March or April, where all these dense fog advisories that are up across the Midwest and back through the Plain States, and also in parts of interior Pennsylvania. We've got winter weather advisories for northeastern New York, up through Vermont, much of New Hampshire, and Maine. Not all of Maine. Looks like the most of the northern part of Maine. Flood watches up for West Virginia. Flood watches up for eastern Tennessee, um, northern Georgia. This is all ongoing, by the way, and also down into Alabama. I had Joe. I was 2 degrees. It's 2 degrees at 7 a.m. Sunday morning,
Wow.
and the temperature right now at on this Thursday. Uh, so roughly 5 days later, Monday, Tuesday. No, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. Uh, um, 62. 62.
We got, I believe, up here to 55. I think. At least I looked this earlier today, and it was 55. I'm not sure if that was the actual high. It might have gone a degree or two higher than that. And yet, at the beginning of this week, we were talking about 55 maybe for tomorrow, and that's gone out the window thanks to a weather front that's going to, you know, be to
Pretty
our
much.
south.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be somewhere across southern Jersey. So if you're south of that front, you're going to be in the 60s, and if you're north of it, you're probably going to be in the 40s to around 50.
Right.
So, and we had the European back not too many days ago having 70s all the way up to northern New Jersey. So much for that. Um, so here's our satellite loop tonight. And I had somebody, I had somebody commented on one of my posts today saying that, you know, um, all I ever talk about is gloom and doom weather. Maybe I'm taking in too much alcohol. I mean, it's like, okay, well, you tell me. It's been cloudy for 3 days and counting, not just here, but pretty much everybody in the eastern half of the United States, maybe a little bit more than the eastern half of the United States. So what else can you call it? It's a very gloomy pattern, and it's a wet pattern, and we're seeing moisture continuing to come out of the Gulf of Mexico, and this is the third wave of low pressure. You know, naturally, Joe, you get for snow lovers, of course, you get a train of lows coming out of the Gulf of Mexico and moving up into the Northeast when there isn't a stitch of cold air around. Do you ever notice that?
Yes.
When it comes to snow, you know you I can remember several times where it happened, but it doesn't happen. Okay, you have to wait 10 days for a low to come down or come up, and you wind up sweating every minute of it, waiting for that magical snowflake to come down. But it is truly amazing. But this is wave number three that is coming tonight and headed in, and back here is energy that came into the Pacific Northwest yesterday. This is number four, and that should be the last one of the bunch here before we get a little bit of a slight pattern adjustment in the east that's going to allow a system to dive down um, from from the plains, from the Dakotas, southeastward toward the mid-Atlantic coast somewhere, and that'll be for the middle part of next week.
Now,
Um, I,
if you're wondering, if you're wondering where's all the snow? Where's it all gone, or where's it falling? It's falling at Juneau, which is the capital of Alaska. The Juneau International Airport now, Joe, as of today, up to 70 inches of snow for the month, making this January of 2024 the third snowiest month. Not the third snowiest January, the third snowiest month on record at the airport in Juneau. Also, the official snow depth of 36 inches is the greatest that they've ever had there in 52 years. So, if you want snow, why don't you book a flight and go to Juneau, because that's where it all is right at this moment in time.
well, and you know what? When it's up there, it ain't down here.
Yep.
That's just how it works. Okay, so here's our next weather system. Starting to see the rain tail off just a little bit in the southeast, which is good, but there's still some heavier rain down along the Gulf Coast. And I had another one of those house shaking thunderstorms, Joe. They somehow love to. You don't hear any other thunder That's the thing. And I was in my kitchen. It was about 2 o'clock this afternoon. I was sitting at the table. I was doing something on my other computer, and my God, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this earth-shattering kaboom. Okay, I mean, my house shook. I mean,
Wow.
literally shook. And I have a really well-built uh, structure here. So even my neighbor also, we both, were like, "Oh my God, what was that?" But yep, that's what happens here in the mountains. And then of course if you're sort of inside a valley in that mountain, everything echoes. Oh, it makes it even louder than it
Now,
otherwise
How does
would.
JJ react to something like that?
This usually he doesn't. This one actually he kind of looked up, you know. He sort of looked up and like, what was that? But he, in general, with thunderstorms, he could care less. Could care less, or couldn't care less.
It's like that Warner Brothers cartoon where I don't know, like there's an explosion, something like that, and you see the dog lazily sleeping on the floor, and all of a sudden he lifts his head up, looks around, and goes, "Bow wow," and goes back to sleep.
Um, yes, yeah. I immediately thought of Martin the Martian.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it
Where's
was
the big
supposed to.
kaboom?
Where's the big kaboom? There was supposed to be a big kaboom. Well, here's our rain for tonight. We've got rain up around the Great Lakes in Ohio Valley. We've got a patch of rain in southern Virginia, and all of this is kind of moving along to the east. God, I love my new computer. Everything is so easy to do. We've got some scattered precip up in the central and southern Rockies, and a little bit of nonsense going on up in the Pacific Northwest. The Storm Prediction Center, as we know, does have severe weather risk, marginal risk, southeast Louisiana, and then northeast from there, coastal Mississippi, Alabama to the Florida Panhandle, north through the state of Alabama into a small portion of south central Tennessee. And for tomorrow, they just have general thunderstorms. They don't have any severe weather being indicated. At least they don't as of this moment. From Texas eastward to the Carolinas. And then for day three, they've got an area of marginal to slight risk in Alabama into the western part of Georgia with general thunderstorms reaching up into southernmost Virginia. And with regards to precipitation over the next 7 days, which is ending, actually, why didn't WPC? Oh my God, WPC must be having problems because uh, I have they haven't updated their rainfall forecast map. It's still the 12Z map. That's unusual for them.
I'm
But
not
at
seeing
least
any maps. I'm just seeing us on the screen right now.
thanks for telling me. Really? No, I got the maps up.
Hmm. Well, there may be something wrong with my.
It may very well be because it can't be me. It
Okay.
must be you.
Okay. No,
No,
I
I
just
got the show up on the I got the show
yeah.
up on the control on my
I
control
just
panel.
bounced down and then came back in, and it's what you're showing. So
Okay. All right. So here you go with the 7 day rainfall, where we were on the edge of an additional inch and a half between now and next Thursday. And actually, now and next Thursday. Still some heavy amounts. I got 2.62 inches of rain so far, and WPC is forecasting another 2.5 to as much as 4 over the next 7 days, and I'm thinking much of that is going to come between now and Sunday. And we also have still some additional heavy rains back down through Mississippi and Louisiana. Hooray, hooray for the drought area there. And heavy rains from San Francisco, just north of San Francisco, all the way up the coast of Washington, and then all the way into southwestern Canada. Areas of 5 to 7 inches or more over the next. In fact, there's an area of 10 inches plus rain uh, indicated there over Vancouver, the island. Is that Vancouver Island? I forget.
Vancouver Island. Yes.
Yeah, Vancouver Island. Okay. All right, let's look at what WPC is doing. And what I got here is I decided this would work better because of the fact that there's a little bit of overlap with what they're showing in Maine tonight, which is a central in the areas of Maine that have winter weather advisories, they're going for, uh, you know, several inches to some places getting 4 or 5. So this is for Sunday. This is from 7 p.m. Saturday to 7 p.m. Sunday. And this is the probability of 1 inch, Joe. 1 inch. Okay. And you can see that for an inch, you have to go, it's that light, not the dark blue, and not the dark blue, but the next shade lighter. That's the area of 50% or higher for at least an inch. So this is the daytime Sunday. So this is WPC's view of things. If that's all, you know, if all they can muster is a 50% chance for at least an inch, and you got to go up in northern Pennsylvania, north central PA, and into southern New York and in the Catskills for that. So you can imagine what a struggle it's going to be to get that down, further south. Again, this is through Sunday evening. And my own feeling, Joe, is that if we're going to see a changeover to snow, it'll probably be Sunday night. It's going to be Sunday night during the overnight.
Right, right. Agreed.
Okay. And here's what I was saying earlier about WPC's long range. So this is for 7 a.m. Sunday to 7 a.m. Monday. If you look where they have the all right, so they got the light green, which is the probability for at least a few inches. The northwestern part of New Jersey, basically north of 287, into Connecticut, southeastern New England. Okay, but where they have the dark green, that's telling you that they're looking at elevation. That's the Catskills, the Poconos, the Berkshires, the Green Mountains, and I don't know what they call the mountains in eastern Massachusetts into southern New Hampshire, and also the
Well,
ones that extend up into northern Connecticut. And the
well,
Connecticut River Valley splits the difference between the two. So you can see what's going through their minds at WPC is that this is going to be an elevation driven snowfall.
now, the mountains in New Hampshire are the White Mountains, although I don't know if they extend that far south. But in any case, you're right. Elevation is going to play a role. This is more like a pattern you'd see either in November or maybe late March or early April.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely correct. All right, so here's what's going on with this upper air, which of course has changed. The GFS loves and the European also they love to show amplitude in the mid range, and then you get into the short range, and there's not that much amplitude with these troughs. But here's the short wave we're talking about, and you can see it. I'm going to mark it off here, right down here. That's the one on Friday night. You've got this flow from the Pacific, okay, and then you've got a flow across from the Pacific across southern Canada. All the cold, really cold Arctic air is bottled up way up in the Arctic region, and that's you know that's why we have a positive Arctic oscillation and not a negative one. The southern trough swings eastward, and now you're looking at this here. This is Sunday morning where we've got uh, the thing is cut off in Ohio, okay? And okay, well that's nice. And you've got this northwest flow in Canada, so we've got this high that's coming down in that flow. Um, the issue is if you look back here in North Dakota, there and this is something that the models didn't pick up on, there is a shortwave there, right behind this weather system. And what that shortwave winds up doing is causes that lead system to open up and sort of flatten out into this positively tilted trough that just basically slides through Sunday night into Monday morning. And then behind it, so that shortwave kind of fades because behind that second shortwave is actually a third shortwave, and you see it here. This is Tuesday morning. Let me clean that up. So Tuesday morning, right in there, there's a second shortwave. The system from the weekend now is, out in the Atlantic, south of Nova Scotia, and moving away. And now we've got this second system that's sort of diving down. And you see it, Joe, it closes off and then goes to the Virginia coast. And there's another upper low that's dropping southward if the GFS is right from from Lake Winnipeg up into Minnesota, and that's probably going to have an impact on this lead upper low to some degree. But the thing is, you know, that's a that's not an unimpressive system in the upper atmosphere. But the problem is, I just don't know what you're going to have left because after this first system goes out on Sunday night and Monday, there's not going to be a whole lot of moisture for this to play with.
And without that moisture, you're not going to see all that much in the way of the white stuff. I mean, you may get the white stuff, or you may get a kind of a mixed bag of snow, sleet, ice, and rain, but not all that much.
Yep.
And
And then
I've been seeing people, Joe, putting up on social media, get ready, here it comes, giving the impression that there's going to be, amounts of like, 3 to 6 or 4 to 8, and it's saying, where are you getting this? Why are you doing this now to get people excited? That's I don't know.
uh, it's beyond me. Um, by the way, if you look at this is in some, it's not quite like it was in December, but it's equally as bad from a winter weather standpoint. And going forward, now out to January 31st, you notice that there's a deep trough right from Alaska down to off the Pacific, the west coast of the United States, and that is no good because if you follow the flow, okay, let's play follow the flow, folks. All right, and that's one way it goes, and the other way it goes this way. We have no connection to cold air, real cold air with this, because that trough basically cuts off any connection to the Arctic region uh, for a delivery of cold air. Now, as we go through time, if you want to believe this, I have to tell you, I don't know about you, but this is one of the strangest looking upper airs that I've seen in a long, long time. I mean, you've got a blocking high sitting just north of Minnesota. You got you've got all these upper lows running around. It's just really bizarre, Joe. It's just bizarre to see something like this. Don't you think? I mean, it's weird.
It is. It
Look at
is.
that. I mean, look, upper low, low, upper low, upper low over there. You got a high over here, upper low up there, upper low out here. Rigid 160 up into Alaska, or at least you got rid of the Alaskan trough. But now you got to get rid of that blocking high that's sitting up in central Canada with that huge height anomaly over Hudson Bay. It does eventually shrink away, and then it looks like it's everything is just shifting around during that first week of February. I don't know what this is going to wind up, what the final outcome of all of this is, but it's just a really strange upper air pattern to see in any time of year, let alone in the middle of in the early part of in the middle of winter.
Well, Bill Kirk at Weather Trends 360 has just posted a notation here saying that the polar vortex now looks to get stronger again, which will pull out
That's
all the
correct.
frigid, all the frigid Arctic air back to the North Pole over the next couple of weeks. But he also adds it does appear to get weaker again in early February, which would allow for another invasion into the United States. And that's what Weather
All
Trends
right.
360 is projecting for February to be. Now, this is the quote from Bill Kirk now. He is projecting, Joe, or Weather Trends 360 is projecting that this upcoming February is going to be the coldest and snowiest in 3 years for the U.S. overall, particularly in the east. So, uh,
Well, he's got the 384 hour here. It's actually a little bit before that. He's right about the polar vortex wrapped up like a tight little ball and strengthening there, just sort of bouncing off the north coast of Siberia for the next week and a half. And then toward the end of the period now, this is the first time I've seen it on a run on today, it was on the run. It looks like there's some kind of another one of these stratospheric warming events that's about to take hold. So maybe that's the one, and it does start to turn the vortex uh, more northeast southwest into northern Canada. So maybe that's the catalyst to start weakening the polar vortex again, and get us to where we were just last week with the bitter cold. I don't know if we're going to eventually get to that. We'll see, but um, yeah, he's right. He's right about both counts on both counts. But my argument is, let's see what happens, because there's no guarantee that you're going to get the ridges and troughs where you'd like to see them if you're a winter weather lover.
Well, I'm going to stick to my guns and say that this winter we're going to see alternating periods of mild weather and very cold weather. We've just had, of course, our very cold stretch of weather. Right here in Putnam Valley, we had 8 consecutive sub-freezing days before it finally warmed up, however, barely above freezing earlier this week. But I think we're now moving into a pattern of milder temperatures, and I think that by the middle part of February, we'll see the flip once again back to colder conditions. And maybe, if Bill Kirk is right, maybe, just maybe, we'll have all that cold and snow hit us in the middle and latter part of February. We'll have to wait and see. But I don't see any of that in the immediate future, Joe.
Okay, I I don't disagree.
And
Um,
I agree, Scott Patton on the chat board, who writes, February has to produce or this winter will be a hoax.
yes. The chairman, Scott Briller, bangs the tip jar tonight. Thank you, Scott. 8 years ago yesterday, January 24th, 2016, Central Park was wrapping up its greatest snowfall ever of 27.5 inches. And you and I both remember that because we talked about it the other day. So, um, not this winter so far. Nothing, the only memorable stuff about this winter is the rain.
You were at FiOS One at that time, weren't you?
I was with you, Joe.
No, what?
I was with you there,
In
weren't you?
2016?
You weren't. Oh, that's right. You weren't there in
I,
2016.
I wasn't there in
Oh, yeah,
2016.
that's right. I was. Yes, I was at FiOS. That is correct.
My
And I,
the assistant news director, who I despised, and he despised me just as much. He actually did me a favor. I mean, like I'm sitting there waiting to be told that I'm going to be on duty and working a Saturday and working a weekend for this big storm, and he never deigned to call me and never deigned to assign me to do anything on that Saturday. So I ended up at home watching the snow, and they had somebody there. I don't even remember the guy's name. He was there and then he was gone. Maybe the snowstorm scared him away or whatever like that. But one guy who I hardly even remember worked that huge, almost historic snowstorm, and I never had anything to do with it. So I didn't have any, I didn't have anything to say about
you
it. I
got
was
to stay home. I know. I think I had to stay that night. I think I was there. I was there that Saturday the whole day until the last flakes fell, and then I got to drive home. If I remember.
I was mad. I was saying to myself, "Here's a big storm, and they're not calling me in." I mean, I had the title chief meteorologist, but the assistant news director again hated my guts, and Renata said to me, she looked at me squarely in the eye and says, "Don't you dare pick up the phone and call Janine." Janine was the news director and could have overridden whatever the assistant news
Right.
director said. "Don't you dare call Janine and ask to come in. You stay here. You are going to be the one for a change to snowblow." Because whenever there was a big snowstorm, I'm at the state TV station. Look who got stuck, using the snowblower, but Renata. So in that case,
Well, you know
history
what?
making.
She fixes them, so she should use it.
Did you hear that, Renata? No birthday cake for you, Joe.
Uh,
Anyway,
uh, oh God. Hold on, I just got to type something in on the chat board. Okay. Very nice compliment from Vincent Croce. Most appreciated. And anyway, here we take a look at this is our system for tonight. Low goes up to Indiana into western New York, so there's this arm that of moisture that comes up the coast. And you can see it's freezing rain all the way. When you have freezing rain in northern New Hampshire this time of year, you know there's a problem, okay, with
Yeah.
the winter. And snow in Maine. And of course, tomorrow it's about this sort of weak frontal boundary that's going to be sitting around. That's going to, if you're north of it, good luck getting up into the into the low 50s. If you're south of it, you go 60 or better, and that'll probably be southernmost New Jersey, south and west. That goes out. Now here comes the last low, moving, across Mississippi into Alabama. The low goes into southern West Virginia, then into northern West Virginia, and there is a little bit of marginal cold air on the northern end. You see the GFS starts to, break out with the light blue. This is Sunday morning, by the way, and that's, this was a system that initially was supposed to come in late in the day, Sunday night into Monday. But now that it's moved in faster, it's not timing with that high that we've been talking about that's going to build down into eastern Canada. So by the time the high starts to build in Sunday morning, which is why you see that blue snow area appear and even some darker blue snows, I look at this, Joe, and I'm looking at what the GFS says is the radar presentation for Sunday, and it's kind of like, eh. I mean, look, by Sunday afternoon, there's a dry slot that moves up through New Jersey. There's still some snow in Pennsylvania and in upstate New York. It's mostly rain at the coast. Then, as the low pulls away, you start to get the precip to change over to snow to the south and east. But it's nothing to write home about. And of course, the low pulls out even further early Monday morning. It's already way out east of 70. Precipitation is drying up and coming to an end. A little bit of light snow still left Monday morning if the GFS is right, and then gone. So, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know how
I'm
much you're
looking
going
at
to get out of this. Even in
I'm looking
areas that even in elevated areas, how much are they going to get out of this? I
I'm
don't
looking at
know.
I'm looking at thermodynamics on the GFS. This is the 18Z run, right?
Yeah.
And the thermodynamics at 7 a.m. on Sunday has the 35-degree isotherm across central Westchester. The 32-degree line is all the way up near Albany. And then as the day wears on, that 32-degree line, even at 7 p.m. on Sunday evening, is still well to the north, up across northern Dutchess County. And the 35-degree line is again across central Westchester. It's really not until the overnight hours of Sunday night into Monday morning that the freezing line finally descends southward across where I am and down into northern and central Westchester. And that's why, so I don't understand why the colors for the precip on Sunday on the GFS is blue all the way down to Westchester, which suggests snow.
Well,
When the
it is.
thermodynamics.
Well, the 850 is colder. If you look at the 850, the 850 is colder.
Yeah, but I'm
So
not at. I don't live at 4,000 feet above sea level,
I
Joe.
know, Joe. I understand that, but I mean, it could be that the atmosphere just above the surface is cold enough to keep it snow all the way down. I don't know. I could pull up a sounding. Um, so the sounding on the GFS, and this is at 1 p.m. Now, I put the dot. It looks like it might be. Let me try this again. So, you know what? Before before I even do this, let's go really close up here so I can get a spot. So I'm going to go where I think Poughkeepsie is. 41.46 north, 73.81 west. Okay. Um, and I'm going to get the sounding for Poughkeepsie. So,
Okay.
so for Poughkeepsie, it says 33, dew point 33, and there's no warm layer. I mean, it just goes immediately, go above 1,000 millibars. It immediately goes below 32, all the way up to about 750 millibars, and then it starts to really, accelerate colder. So, I mean, that could be the reason why it's generating the snow that it is. I will put the cross where I believe White Plains is, and White Plains 37 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, Long Island Islip. Let's just take a look at that. Um, 39. Okay, so you're not going to get anything out of that. So let's go to 1 a.m. Actually, we'll go to 7 a.m. because the GFS has got some snow falling here. Let's go to 7 a.m. on it's Monday morning on Long Island. 34. Okay. 34. Your house, 32. So it's going to take you all night, Joe, basically, just to get down to 32. I look, unless the only way this winds up being a problem, and I don't think it's going to be, but the only way it becomes a problem is if the upper features of the GFS are wrong, that they're much deeper. There's a more well-defined cutoff low. You wind up with a deeper low that produces an area of it, of intense precip, and that cools the column all the way down. You got terrific vertical motions, off the wall vertical motions. I don't think that's good. I don't in this instance. I don't think that's going to happen. I just don't. So um, otherwise, I think this is just even where the GFS. If you look at where the dark blues are, it's all elevated areas. Poconos,
Yep.
northwest Orange County going up to Sullivan County, the Berkshires and the White Mountains with the Connecticut River Valley in between. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see this being a huge deal.
I don't see it. Well, yeah. Again, it's all going to be based upon elevation, and it's a sad state of affairs when you have to rely on elevation to get snow in the latter part of January.
Yes.
It's
And by the
something.
way, I put up. Could this be the reason why they're doing what they're doing? And for God's sake, I got to roll this back. I just noticed things like at 10 inches at Tom's River. So I think that's from the second system. Um, I mean, this is just, these snow maps. Honest to God, I really wish that they didn't have them because of the fact that, because of what that's turned into, where everybody just they look at this and they don't look at anything else. That's the thing that I object to. That
Right.
I guarantee you that they look at this, they look at these snow maps, and they don't look at anything else when it comes to doing to do the forecast legwork. And they're seeing central New Jersey on the GFS to Long Island, 1 to 3, 4 inches, almost 5 inches at Bridgeport, almost 8 inches at Poughkeepsie,
Wow.
Middletown 8.4. I mean, in some elevated areas, is it possible that they could see amounts like that? I guess. Um, Down here along the coast like this on the southern end, I guess not. I just don't think so. And I brought this up because I figured we might as well take the SREF because that should go out far enough. So,
The
uh, lip
plumes.
plumes. So we don't have to look at those silly graphs anymore. Um, so lip plume. So by the way, this is the probability. This is 7 a.m. Monday. So let me back this up. Let's go to 4 a.m., 1 a.m. All right. So
What is the probability of, Joe? Oh, better than.
this is This is 24-hour 10 to 1 snowfall probability. Um, 70, for Poughkeepsie, this is at 7 p.m. Sunday on the plumes. 58% at Poughkeepsie, 73% probability of greater than an inch. Okay. Probability of greater than an inch. 58% chance at Poughkeepsie, 73% chance in Middletown into northeastern Pennsylvania, 69 at Scranton, 63 at Waterbury, 62 at Waterbury. I'm just going to switch this over. Well, here's 78, 81, 84, at 87 hours. I mean, this is by this time it's just about over with. You can see the coastal chances at 12%, higher probabilities up to the north and further inland. Let's look at what kind of snow amounts the SREF threw out, um, because inevitably they're going to go down, which is what the SREF loves to do. So they've got uh, zero point 0.8 at New York City, which will take the seasonal snow total over 3. Uh, 0.9 at Bridgewater, 0.5 at Brentwood, 1.7 at Yonkers, Middletown 6.2, Poughkeepsie 5.1. I'm going to put the cursor in Putnam County, Joe. In southern Putnam County, it's 3 to 4, and in northern Putnam County, it's 4. Okay, 4 in Waterbury, 3.5 in Hartford. So that's the starting point tonight on the SREF. Now we watch to see what the trends are, and I guarantee you the trends. My guess is the trends are going to be down. Would you like to ring the bell?
Have we gone over 100 yet?
Oh yes, we're at 110.
I'm still stuck at 82.
No, we're
Uh,
at 110.
but oh, sure. Close your ears, Joe.
Okay.
If that's the
And
good man, get me a popsicle.
that's right. And Johnny Quest hits the tip jar. Thank you, Johnny, and thank you for the early birthday wishes. It is most appreciated. Thank you
I,
very
I
much.
I've got to tell you something though. The average person, in my opinion, I don't know how many of you read the comics like I enjoy reading the comics online every day. And there's one comic that, especially now that I'm getting up there in years, the comic, Pickles. That's the name of the comic. It's like an elderly couple and their grandson lives with them and a dog and a cat. But I think about that type of couple when they watch the local New York newscasts. And there's like, for example, there's one weathercaster who will show you. Now, this is what the European is going for. And they're going for 8.2 inches in New York and 9. He said, however, this is what the GFS says. And this is what the NAM is saying and everything else. And I'm picturing that couple, the couple in Pickles, watching this and looking at each other and saying, what is he trying to tell us? He's showing us all these different numbers and all these different figures, and he's telling us one set of numbers and one possible accumulation. It's heavy here, it's light here, and that basically, I think, Joe, when you look at some of these snow maps, and when you look at some of the stuff that is put out 3 and 4 days in advance of a storm, when they one guy here in New York figures he'll cover all bases and show you all the numbers and all the models and all everything. It doesn't do you a darn bit of good
No,
because
it doesn't. It's
it
useless. It's
uses
not. It's a tool. It's a forecast tool. I don't think it does serves the public any.
it's it's
It doesn't. I
model
don't.
it's
I
model guidance. It's to guide you in making a forecast for the future. It is not something where you arbitrarily show it's 8 inches on this model and four
Right.
inches on this
Yeah,
model.
and the difference is, to be fair, I mean, to be slightly fair, the TV person doesn't have time to give it context. Okay, they just don't. They've got their 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever it is. So I wouldn't even bother to put on maps like that because you just don't have the time to give it context unless you're going to spend a fair amount of time giving it context. I mean, we just put them up, but we gave it context and we just said, why these numbers really don't make sense given the situation that we're seeing. So that's a big difference. We're able to do that here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 and the occasional Friday and Saturday when there's a storm around on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Thanks for giving me a way to do a shameless self-promotion.
Yeah. Well, it's just I'm sorry to rant, but I mean, like, but as I said at the onset of this broadcast, and you and I both know that this is the way it is, that they tell the weathercasters, do as much as you can to try to clear as much of or as many of the aisles in the supermarkets of milk and eggs and whatever like that, and bread, because we want people to stay with us and we want people to be glued to the TV. And so if we start telling people about the potential of something major coming, they'll stay with us through thick and thin or whatever. This is why, Joe, I really miss, I don't miss it so much now. But when I worked at News 12, Westchester and Hudson Valley, the most atypical, the most unusual news director was Janine Rose. She was the person. She would tell everybody in the newsroom, "We follow what Joe says. We're not gonna. When Joe says it's something to be upsetting about or something to get ready for, that's when we'll listen." She was never one to dictate to me, "Oh, you've got to." in contrast to the assistant news director who used to do that to me, and I used to say, "Go to you know where," which is why he hated me and I hated him. So
And
anyway,
he couldn't fire you either.
no, he could just ignore me,
Right.
which he did during the final, the final days of my. And I'll tell you something, and this has nothing to do with weather, but the last 2 weeks, my final 2 weeks at News 12, almost everybody would either stop into the weather office or if I passed them in the hallway. I mean, I even had a couple of people, a couple of women reporters who were very sad that I was leaving because I had been there for 21 years or whatever. But when the assistant news director passed me in the hall, again, 2 weeks and counting, my final days there, he'd pass me by. I wouldn't say, I'd say hi, and he'd just look at me and say, "Oh, hi," and he just walked past. I mean, he must have been he must have been dancing in the street the day I left at News.
Is he on the chat board?
I wish he was. I wish he was.
Oh,
But
oh
he
God.
he got bumped up after Janine got bumped out when they changed hands, when the ownership changed hands. She got bumped off. He got the job that he always wanted, that he was like a fly on a piece of chocolate, rubbing the front legs or whatever. He
Right.
finally got what he wanted. He got the job as news director, and then they bumped him over to News 12 the Bronx. And I don't know what if he's still there or whatever,
And
but
no one's ever heard from him again.
but
Oh,
anyway, it's all politics, folks. So don't when you see these weathercasters talking about storms 2, 3, 4 days in advance and showing you snow maps up the yin yang or whatever, be advised they probably, I know at least two of them don't really want to do it, but they have to do it because there's pressure from above to
well,
do it.
they're making huge amounts of money that we never made.
Yes, exactly.
You know, $500,000 a year. You know, you'd sing, but trust us, folks. Neither of us were in that particular world, not even close.
Nope.
All right, let's do Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Surely.
Okay, so we are doing tonight the average low temperature in the month of January for the following cities. Before I do that, Keith James II, thank you for hitting the tip jar and for the happy birthday. This pattern was kind of predicted in the fall, weather and warmer. Seems like this is no surprise. Yeah, Keith, you just bring up something else I was thinking about today is the fact that, um, a lot, there's that sacrilege of not predicting, um, what I'm getting at is in the fall when everybody asks that question, it's like, well, what's the winter going to be like? Okay, and always the answer, God forbid that you should go on and say it'll be a snowless winter for much of the Northeast. You would have committed one of the greatest sacrileges known to man. But yet every year those broken clocks continue to put up the same forecast, and and it hasn't worked out, and it doesn't stop them from doing it. Now, there were some forecasts that bucked that trend. Okay, and I'm not talking about there. I'm specifically referring to this to people who every single year. Okay, not you might have put that forecast out for this winter and you're wrong. You're wrong, and understandable. But you've done honest forecasting. I can accept it. People, it doesn't always work. But, there are those who do it for clicks or whatever the reason is that they do it for. Automatically the Northeast has got to have a bitter cold and snowy winter year after year after year. And eventually broken clocks are right twice a day, unless it's a military clock, in which case it's once a day. So eventually they're going to get it right, but they may get 9 or 10 of them wrong in the process. And that's the thing that's the part of it that really hacks me off. Okay, so let's go back to Briller Jeopardy. Average low temperatures in the January in the following cities, starting with a city near me, Atlanta, Georgia.
Now
Atlanta, Georgia.
this is not snow. This is average
Average low temperature for the month
low
of
temperatures.
January. Low,
And we
low,
don't
low.
and we don't have to do the average high in addition to the average low, do
No,
we?
just the average low
All right. In Atlanta
in Atlanta
in January.
in January.
Ah, I'm trying to remember. I'm still trying to remember what the average low temperature in New York is in the month of January. Um, in Atlanta, what could it possibly be? Uh, I don't know. How about uh, how about 41?
Uh, Not a terrible guess, but too high. I see the numbers the folks have put on the chat board. John Melander 39, Jason Barry 35, Jason Fox 39, uh, Gerasimos Stasinos 38, David Carter 33, uh, Keith James II 33, Michael Azara 39, Christina Pedia 38, David Carter 33, but Howard A gets it at 36.
Oh, and Maggie
30,
P had 36.
and Rich Rothmansky got 36 too.
Okay.
Yes, so 36. Now I will tell you here where I am, which is about 100 miles northeast of Atlanta, as the crow
You're
flies.
probably closer. You're probably closer to 29 or 30.
No, it's mid 20s. It's mid 20s.
Wow.
It gets cold up here at night, Joe. I mean, I could even in this pattern this month actually has been fairly cold here. I don't know what the average is for the month. Um, but I mean, I had a low of 7, followed a few days later by last Sunday morning's low of 2, among other things. But yeah, it's like 24, 23 is the average low, something like that.
The coldest I've been so far is 10. So I've not been like you. I've not been in the tingle digits yet.
Right. Or as I call them, the dingle sidgets.
Yes.
Baltimore,
Balmer.
Baltimore.
All right. So what possibly could it be in Baltimore? Uh, I would say the I would say that the low temperature will be 25.
Um, you can ring the bell because I don't have a bell to ring.
Oh,
25 is the number. Chris Alley got it too. 25. I'm trying to see if anybody else said 25. Lou Arizio said 25. Yeah, so 25 it is. Next is Buffalo.
oh, why Buffalo?
Why not Buffalo? By the way, Buffalo is slightly below normal for snowfall so far this year. I'm just throwing it out there. In the Northeast, just about every major place you can name is below normal. And in some places, it's, particularly as you go up north, it's actually not a small number. But uh, the only places in the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic, the ones that are above normal, Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia. There you go. They're all near or above normal for snowfall so far this winter. Uh, so
How,
Buffalo, average low.
how about 18?
How about 18? Well, David Carter, Frank R. also say 18. However, Craig Carlberg and Leon Probitsky and Matthew Howe hit it on the nose at 19. Okay, Chicago.
Chicago, Chicago. Well, Chicago could be, you know, they do get lake effect in Chicago. Chicago could be a cross between Buffalo and New York. Um, ah, how about 27?
27 is a reasonable guess, and it's wrong, but it's a reasonable wrong.
It's not snake country, is it?
Not snake country. No, it's not snake country. Um,
Harold DeChara says 24.
that's snake country.
Ooh,
That's snake country.
it's either
24 is
24
snake
or 25,
country.
right?
Correct. Frank R said 23. Maggie P said 24. And James Davidson gets it right. It's 25.
There you go.
25. Okay. Next is, hold on. I got to get my mouse there. Cleveland.
Cleveland, by the way, speaking of Cleveland, I don't know if you saw this, Joe. I posted it on my Facebook page. Cleveland Indians, no, not the Cleveland Indians anymore. They're
The Guardian.
the Guardians have a problem. Opening day is Monday, April 8th. It's also the day of the total eclipse, which will go right over Cleveland. And they're having a problem in trying to figure out when they're going to play that game. The eclipse is going to hit total in Cleveland at about 20 after 3 in the afternoon, and they know that the roadways are going to be jam packed every which way, and they're not sure when they should play it. Should they play it early before the eclipse? Should they wait until after the eclipse?
I
They still
play
haven't
it.
figured that. They still haven't
Pro-
figured it out as to what they're going to do. And if they play it and the eclipse happens in the middle of the game, what do? They stop it and like a rain delay and let everybody and all the ball players watch. So it's a very intriguing and very interesting situation for them. As far as the normal, the normal low temperature
yeah.
in January in Cleveland,
Hmm.
how about 2021?
Snake country.
Oh,
Along with Vincent Croce at 21.
well,
And
Christopher Alley too.
Leon Probitsky and John Melander and Maggie P. and Rich Rothmansky and Matthew Howe and New York Jet fan Cody and all of the saints who have done your will throughout the ages. Got it right. 22. 22.
22 degrees.
And the
Michael
last,
Michael Azera points out that tomorrow is the anniversary of 1978. Cleveland set their lowest pressure on record. Get this, Joe, 28.28 inches of mercury.
wow.
That's the big storm that came in between the first big snowstorm in New York on the 20th of January and
Right,
the
then the that Cleveland blizzard. It happened again in '96. There was a storm after the the '96 snowstorm that we had, and then I think like a week and a half or 2 weeks later, there was a deep low that brought big snows to Cleveland, and then melted all our snow away, and then all the snow came back after that because the pattern refired at the beginning of February. The last one is a bonus, and that's Juneau, Alaska, which is funny that you mentioned Juneau at the top of the show.
it's a
Juneau,
good
Alaska.
it's a good thing I didn't mention anything about snow because then I would have given it all away, right?
Right, but
Anyway,
we're doing temps.
well, um, so what would be the low temperature in
The
Juneau?
average low temperature in
Average
Juneau.
low temperature. I suppose since they've got so much snow on the ground that it must be a rather low.
On
So
on the other hand, Juneau is on the coast.
right, and that's why this year is so exceptional. I mean, we got 70 inches already in January, and you wouldn't expect that. You expect that for like say Fairbanks or Anchorage or whatever. Um, how about 2023?
23 is too high, but it's not that high. Okay. Jason Barry at 22. First of all, any of you that went down to single digits or below zero, you know that's not happening.
No, no.
Way too low. Chris Alley's at 16. Okay. He's
Matthew
at
House is
16.
18.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Matthew House is 18.
And Matthew Howe is he's at Snake Country. If it
Oh,
was a snake, it would have been him.
yeah,
Maggie P said 18. William Uber is at Snake Country because he said 20. So guess what
it's
the
got to be.
answer is?
It's got to be 19 then, right?
19. Yes, 19 is the average low for Juneau, Alaska. But remember, they're right on the coast of relative to the Pacific Ocean is
Right.
there. It's warm. I mean, it's not warm that you would go in it. I'm guessing the water temperatures there are in the upper 30s and low 40s, but That's a moderating influence on Juneau, Alaska. So anyhow, uh, all right. So I think we've wrapped it up. Again, so far, at least for now, there's no plan to go on tomorrow or Saturday. So in which case that we will be back on Sunday. I don't know what kind of snake will you move. The only snake that bit me was a racer snake was it last year or 2 years ago? I forget. No, it was 2 years ago. Not last summer, but the summer before. So, so let it be a racer snake. It wasn't terrible, and they're not poisonous. Uh, yeah, so we'll be back Sunday at 7:35 p.m. If we do decide to come on earlier, I'll put a show up early and open the chat board up earlier so that maybe you'll get notifications. And plus, I always put something on Facebook and Twitter and every place else, so word will get out that we're going to have an extra show. But for now,
Let's also
we're not
let's also
doing it.
thank let's also thank the three people who hit the tip jar tonight: the chairman, Scott Driller, Johnny Quest, and Keith James II. Thank you for hitting the tip jar, and thank you for the 139 likes that we had tonight on our show.
I got my harmonica, but my microphone will not pick up music sound. So sorry. I just could try to play Happy Birthday on it. All right. So we'll see everybody on Sunday, unless we change our minds.
Yes.
90, 99.
Nighty night, folks.